Hi, today I will be styling this small tropical trees in my collection. I have Coprosma kirkii, two varieties, the standard one and the variegated one. I will be wiring them and pruning them. For this work I don't use my standard wire cutter. I use the small one, more traditional style, because it's easier to reach in the small space, and it's not necessary to have such a high performance tool such as the Knipex one that I usually use. And just to give you an idea, this Coprosma is a fantastic species for indoor bonsai. It is not very susceptible to changes in humidity. It can withstand drought. It can go from dry to wet without an issue, and it looks a little bit like olive. It's quite beautiful. And to give you an idea, this trunk here is a tree that is in my care for about 4 years. It was bought very thin, perhaps thinner than this, half of this, and it grows well. The bark is interesting, and it can resist it to indoor conditions quite well. So I highly recommend this species if you want to try an indoor species. So stay tuned for the work. This is the first one that we will work on. It's a Coprosma kirkii. This is a species that is originary from New Zealand, and the first step will be to prune everything I don't need, and then I will be wiring it. The style idea for this tree is more traditional. Okay, so there will be a little more pruning, but for now this is it. I still have some wire from last year. I'll remove it and put new wire and set the branches in places. This is the result of styling the first Coprosma. As I mentioned, it's a much more traditional looking tree. Wiring a tree this small is really challenging, and if you can wire such a tree, you can wire a much bigger tree. It's really challenging because every piece of foliage counts in such a smaller size, and you have to be really careful as you wire it. This tree now will have much less water requirements than it had before, so you have to, after styling a tree, you have to consider that in your watering practice. Now I will move to the next trees. This is the second Coprosma. It's a very challenging tree with three sort of trunks in a bar line. This is a clear problem with this tree, and the idea will be to remove this branch here and make a pad here, a second pad, and then take this over and make an arching above. I don't know if it will look nice. We'll see how it looks. This is the final result of this Coprosma. It was a very difficult tree with this bar branch and this third trunk here. So I decided to make this into a branch, this is into a second branch, and this is the main trunk line, and as it develops it will start filling up. And this is not quite windswept, it just has a prominent movement towards the right. With time this will ramify, and we will be able to reassess the style. Styling these small trees is much more difficult, I find, than the big ones, and every tree is an opportunity to practice and to exercise our intuition for design. Now let's move on to the other trees. final result. I end up styling only 5 of the trees that I plan to. So I will move them around and show them with their front. Some trees there isn't much to do. You have too few choices, and so it's just setting up primary structure or selecting branches and letting it grow. Other have a more defined style already. You can see. This is the most developed of them, of course. This is the parent tree from which all the cuttings of Coprosma that I have came from. Well, some were bought, but this definitely is a cutting from this one. This is more of a traditional or oriental looking tree. So is this one here. All the zigzags, but this is something characteristic of the species and the way that the grower that sells this stock pre-bonsai more or less as this size. This one was bought last year as pre-bonsai, so there were already choices made, and that constrains to a great extent what you can do with the tree. Still, it's beautiful, and it's becoming a little bit wilder in my hand. This one here, this cutting has a pad here, another pad here, and some pads, and it will grow in that direction, but it's still very far away from ready. This one here is just extremely ugly with this straight trunk here, so I disguised it with foliage, and it will grow more or less into a wild looking natural style. All of these trees offer a great opportunity to practice wiring, to think about aesthetics and implement it, and it's much harder than bigger trees because you have so much less choices of branches and foliage, and every leaf is sort of necessary, that it's actually a very good exercise. So if you have the opportunity to obtain Coprosma kirkii, either the standard variety or the variegated one, it's really a very good species for indoor bonsai. It stays outside during the summer, but as the temperatures go below 5 degrees, I bring it in. This is it for now. I hope this video was of some value. If nothing else, at least to entice you to go get some cheap pre-bonsai for practice purposes. Thank you for watching, and if you like, please subscribe. If you have any questions, please write them below. As a reminder, these trees have lost a lot of foliage, and so their water requirements will severely decrease, but this is a very strong species, and I have no worries at all that any of them will survive, and in a few weeks actually they will be overgrown again. It's a constant struggle with this species. So again, Coprosma kirkii, which is a species native to New Zealand. And if you're in the Montreal area and you want to acquire some, get in touch. And I do have some cuttings that rooted, both variegated or standard. Or you can go to one of the pre-bonsai nurseries around Quebec, such as Bonsai ENR from Yves Le Tourneau, between about 100 kilometers east of Montreal, and he will have plenty of stock. So thank you for watching, and until the next one, bye bye.